you like wiener.
Wow,
So
we're starting off the podcast very
you
hot today.
you like wiener. You're not doing anything.
Oh,
What's wrong with
why?
liking wiener? I enjoy an Oscar Mayer once in a while.
You fucked an ostrich?
No, allegedly.
We started off so hot.
All right.
That was
Well, we had to start off hot because we kind of missed last week. Schedules didn't link up, all that kind of stuff. But we're back again with plenty to talk about because number one has fallen. LSU is now number 2 spot. Wake Forest taking that number 1 spot. However, still the SEC running the show, as we're just going to briefly touch on rankings. The top 25 as of sent by Mikey Love. So if I am wrong, it's his fault. We got number 1 Wake Forest, LSU, Arkansas, Stanford, Vanderbilt, South Carolina, Florida, Coastal Carolina, Connecticut, Duke, Miami, West Virginia, Campbell, East Carolina, Oregon State, Clemson, Kentucky, Dallas Baptist, Maryland, Boston College, Virginia, UTSA, Tennessee, Oregon, and Southern Miss. What a wild show. Not going to lie to you.
it is a very wild show because there's a lot of teams that have found a way to snuck in and stay in. One of those teams being Boston College, who seems to be battling through a very tough ACC schedule. Another team that's kind of sneaking their way back up into the top 20 at least, but trying to get back into the top 10 for the first time in a while. Oregon State, they found a way to get the bats going this year and finally kind of get themselves back up. Duke now moves into the top 10. I believe that's like the first time in program history, or like one of the first times in like in a while. I saw a stat behind it. I forget where it was at, but Duke moving into the top 10, which is huge. They're really rounding out an ACC schedule hard. UConn, like we've always talked about, their pitching has been their best thing. Now they're in the top 10. Coastal found a way to slide in there because they've been battling with Wake Forest all year. But I think that one spot that sits up top with Wake Forest is thoroughly impressive because, I mean, they have been probably one of the most well-rounded teams besides LSU. But, I mean, still their bullpen has been just through all their arms. It's been a tough way to get runs. It's been tough to even just get hits off this team. And then you look at a team like LSU, who Scanis, I mean, he's been LSU's bread and butter when it comes to the bullpen. Otherwise, like, still, they've got a great bunch of arms. But that's the thing that I think has been lacking for them. And that's why Auburn took this weekend. And that's Auburn's second straight top 5 SEC series win. So Auburn's trying to look on getting a hot streak. But I mean, the SEC still, like you said, has a hold on that top 5 and that really big hold on the top 10. But teams are slowly kind of starting to slide out for the SEC. And you start seeing teams like Dallas Baptist move in, who we haven't talked about a whole heck of a lot this year. So
I think one of the biggest stories, however, coming off of the series between LSU and Alabama. Alabama fired their head baseball coach, Brad Bohannon, amid the betting allegations that happened. So for those of you that didn't know, and again, the story is still kind of foggy, obviously some stuff going on behind the scenes that not everybody knows about, but looking kind of into it just from the outside, we're seeing that there were a few massive bets placed on the Alabama and LSU game. So much so that Las Vegas shut down all betting lines for that series. Now the allegations are saying that there might have been inside information released because they were supposed to have their ace go. Alabama was against LSU. However, they had him scratched right before the game started. And put in a freshman who hadn't played much, and he gave up, I think, 3 runs through 4 or something like that. But gave up quite a bit of runs, and Alabama ended up coming back just a little bit, but LSU ended up taking the game from them. However, there were calls between the two areas, again, block numbers, so don't read too much into it, but some calls going out to Cincinnati, which was where the bets were placed, was in Ohio, and calls then going down to Baton Rouge. So there was some stuff there, but amid the allegations, the head coach was released from the Alabama program. And I mean, LSU still having some chinks in the armor. I mean, watching that series and watching him play against Auburn, I think that, like you said, Nick, is that their pitching is decent. It's just that their run production can keep them up in front, but their defense looks atrocious. Defense and base running was not to be found in those games. I mean, when LSU lost in their upset, it was a huge base running mistake that made them double it up to end the game. So,
Well, and at the beginning of the year, we saw some defensive blunders from LSU. I mean, it
Yep.
was
Yep.
trying to work with a new team, new coach. I mean, I will say this: despite all the things that happened with Alabama for baseball, this is going to be something interesting to see here because they came back this weekend and they had number 5 Vanderbilt, but in Tuscaloosa, they ended up taking a series from an SEC opponent in number 5 Vandy. 11-2 your final score on Thursday, loss 4-1 on Friday, and then a 2-1 victory over Vandy on Saturday. So I mean, Alabama bounced back and they bounced back hard because I mean, looking at this LSU scoreline, I mean, it was 8-6 for an L. 12-8 loss and then a 13-11 loss. I mean, LSU, like you just said, they can put up run productions. That's been their bread and butter as a whole entire team since probably all of us have known them. I mean, their run production, their offense has just been off the charts pretty much their entire eternity since we've been alive. But the biggest thing that they've had on past teams to win college baseball with Pulmonary has been pitching. And like we said, this year it doesn't seem to be their biggest factor when it comes to bullpens because I mean they still have some very big offensive leaders. Like looking through on, I believe this was posted from April 13th on College Baseball Hub, but you still had Dylan Cruz, who's leading or who so far was leading in batting average at that point. He's also leading in on base percentage. You got Tommy White, who has 54 RBIs even before these last couple. I mean, so their offense is there. Their pitching, on the other hand, like I said, Scanis has just been outstanding for LSU this year. I mean, he's just lighting it up. Leads, and I believe he's been still holding the leader in WHIP for the last couple of weeks. But I mean, he's probably a potential top draft pick, at least in the top 5. So, and it's the SEC has a lot of draft picks, but that's been the biggest thing. And I think Auburn really took advantage of that defensive blunder, and that was their biggest part of winning this weekend.
No, I agree. But to continue kind of going down the road, just looking at the weekend series then to kind of hop off of LSU at this point. What do we got? Friday series. Pull it up.
Spit it out.
All right. So not too many things. Appalachian State did take the first game against Coastal Carolina when they played them 11-0. Oh, did not catch that game. 14 hits to 1 hit. Wow. They decided to come out swinging. Otherwise, Kentucky, is that the first game they played against them on that Friday, or did they play Thursday?
I'm looking right now at Kentucky's baseball schedule here. I was getting ready to pull that
they
one
won
up.
7-3 against that number 3 South Carolina at the time. Just kind of looking at then upsets. LSU did end up taking the first game against Auburn, but Auburn took the series.
Actually, here's the big thing too. Kentucky swept South Carolina this past weekend.
Oh,
so and this was in Lexington. They had that first game 7-3 on Friday, 14-7 on Saturday, and then Sunday was 9-2. I think that's South Carolina's lowest amount of runs scored through an entire weekend. I mean, it seems like Kentucky's bullpen was able to hold up. And that's one thing too, is you have this South Carolina team that is built for power, like Tennessee Tech back a few years ago. I believe it was 2016 or 17 when that Tennessee Tech team hit 150 home runs in a season. This South Carolina team is built to do that. And you only get them for 12 runs on the weekend. That's huge for Kentucky. That shows a lot that I didn't get a chance to watch a lot of these games for the weekend for South Carolina, but I would imagine that a lot of off speed was probably innovated and you were able to get through with a back half bullpen. It especially helps when you get a massive amount of run production. So Kentucky with a big win. They got Tennessee coming up this next weekend.
I'm hoping that Kentucky then after this weekend will then crack back into the top 25 because I feel like they've been a team like we've talked about before. They were
now.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, never mind then. I'm losing my mind. But yeah, Nebraska won the second game against Maryland that they played. Georgia won their second game against Tennessee.
Georgia won the
Middle
series
Tennessee
Tennessee
won. What's that?
Georgia won the series against Tennessee.
nice. And we've talked about too that Tennessee team. They're very, very hot and cold.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they were kind of
They
overrated at
suck
the
on the
beginning of the
road.
season, but
FYI, in case you're curious.
Yeah,
they
their road
slap it
record
around
this
on the
year
road.
is
Yeah,
no.
they suck. They're 2-1 or 2-11.
Oh,
Yeah,
so
they're
they're not a good
taking it.
traveling team.
No.
Heard. Middle Tennessee took the second game against
Too
Dallas
many,
Baptist.
The other team is sending
Yeah.
distractions to the hotel.
Got him.
It's like Blue Mountain State with the cheerleaders.
Yes.
It's the bowl game.
Oklahoma won a second game against West Virginia.
Yeah, so don't sleep on the West Virginia team.
TCU beat Cal State Fullerton second. I'm surprised TCU is not ranked. In
That's
all
'cause they're
honesty,
that Big 12.
it's tough, but like I feel like they're better
Mm.
than some of the Pac-12 teams that are in there. You know what I'm saying?
The Pac-12 sucks.
Yeah, I mean they
Well,
put up
Kansas should be
Cal
in there
State
over
Fullerton.
every
They put them up
Pac-12
there.
team.
They beat them 13-4 with
Cal
19
State
hits in that
Fullerton
game.
shouldn't even be in the Pac-12.
Well,
Texas
and
A&M beat Florida in 7.
I will say this has been the biggest thing for TCU this year. They have been streaky, and a lot of it after losing a big series to Oklahoma, their first Big 12 series of the year. They went Kansas, Texas Tech. They took an L in that series. Oklahoma State, they got the series win. UNC Wilmington, they dropped 2, who also had a big win against Northeastern this weekend, dropping them out of the rankings. But then they take a full series sweep West Virginia sweeps TCU. Texas ends up getting a series win against them. And then now Cal State Fullerton. So, I mean, this TCU team just has not been, they haven't been as on as we have seen them, especially coming down the stretch. Like, I've been used to seeing TCU be, as soon as they kind of get to this early May, like the mid-April part, they seem to be firing on all cylinders, or at least they were close to last year. And now it seems like they're dropping a little bit.
That's because you have 4 teams that you usually dominate the Big 12. You don't have that.
That is also true.
The 4 teams that are leading it are West Virginia, Oklahoma State, Kansas State, and Texas. 2 of those 4 are never up there.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's usually like Texas Tech or
West Virginia's
TCU
got a guy who, if he was eligible to be drafted, could arguably potentially beat out Dylan Cruz for the #1 pick.
I have seen that because he's putting up numbers for potentially being a Triple Crown winner next year.
Is actually statistically better. Only thing that Dylan Cruz has on him is he's got more walks, and his on base percentage is almost 100 points higher.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
And JJ's done this in 4 less games played too.
Yeah, and Weatherhold is potentially, like I said, he's potentially looking at going for a Golden Spikes Award and a Triple Crown next year as well. So I mean,
the guy can play. Like he's tied Dylan in home runs.
He's him.
He's got more doubles. He's got more triples. He's got more ABs. He's tied for average.
What about
32 stolen bases too?
What about Caglione? How's he doing at this point?
He's not even.
I'm looking at the Florida Texas A&M series. Texas A&M ended up taking the series from Florida, so you have that. But going back real quick, as you look that up, but going back real quick to the UNC Wilmington, you said this, Nick, in the chat. They had the classic 1-2 put out where
guy hits him. That was Mikey.
Mikey sent that. Shout out, Mike. Mikey Love, Love Doctor. Hits it back up the box. The pitcher goes behind the back to catch it, and he ends up flicking it back to the catcher, who catches the guy running home because he kind of stutter stepped. Obviously, he thought the pitcher had fielded, so he's like, "Oh crap!" But then he saw it bounce off his glove, starts going towards home. Catcher fields it, tags him on the foot because he tries to jump over the top, and gets him out.
Imagine
pretty incredible
how you can't even be embarrassed by that as a base runner.
It's kind of like, you see the ball out of the glove and you're like, oh yes, and then you don't realize it's going right towards the catcher, because if it goes either way about 5 feet, you have probably a decent opportunity to get it.
Yeah, so I mean, nothing you could do on that. It's not going to be anything against the base runner, because I mean, in my opinion, as a head coach, you make the right read. That's just
he red ball down and he red ball out of the glove. Like he did make the first correct move to stop, because if the pitcher fields that cleanly, he can just look him back. Yeah. So, but looking at then they'll play Campbell this week, which will be a good ranked matchup for them to face.
So I got a quick question here before we move on. So you got Weatherholt here, like we said, putting up big numbers, still has 1 year of eligibility left. He's not technically draft eligible. How are you looking, or what would be the ideal way to keep up your stats for next year to be able to get into that point of potentially getting the number 1 spot? He has the numbers.
That doesn't mean anything. This dude could come out next year and just suck.
That, or he
Like,
could
that's
get injured.
baseball.
He could, like, it's
That's baseball.
like
Yeah,
you
like,
hope
think
that he
about it.
can.
Paul Skinnis was nowhere on, to my knowledge, was nowhere on any of these radars last year at Air Force. And the dude goes to LSU and he's just boom.
He wasn't on the radar. He was still putting up the same, not exactly the same numbers as he is this year, because we looked at it at the beginning, or kind of early in the season, where his numbers at Air Force were damn good to be able to get to LSU. But like you said, he wasn't on any radars. But now you got a guy like Weatherholt who is on a radar. Is there a potential that, yes, I get the factors of he could get hurt, season can change next year, he could transfer, all that shit that could happen. But is there a possibility that he could potentially keep it up?
Yeah.
Because he's
improved based off of last year.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, and you can always have that. And like, I feel like if you still do have a good season, and then maybe next year you don't have as good, you probably pretty average. You still could go high up in the draft because they know if they've seen your potential, they're like, oh, maybe he just had an off season. The next season could bounce back. Like, obviously, if they can see that this is this kid's, ceiling right now, or like even his next floor, like he could even continue to improve. Who knows? But obviously, you see the potential that's there.
Yeah.
The thing with that is, excuse me, you never know who's going to go in the draft. Like,
right.
Next year, it could be
high schoolers,
15
or
high
kind of
schoolers that just come out of nowhere, and they're all pitchers, and MLB is like, yeah, we like these guys. Or for all we know, we could have just some random dude who's the next Mike Trout or B. Harper just come out of nowhere. So I mean,
True.
he could even have an amazing year next year.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he could even, if somehow he does better than what he's doing now, there could be 14 dudes that are just, I don't know, younger than him and have a higher ceiling.
Yeah. And I think that's the weird thing to me with baseball, is that, I wouldn't say weird, it's the more ironic thing about it is you have so many other draft picks, and
I was
going
to say so many rounds though.
Yeah. And
so the thing is, you have all those, but it's the only sport where if you're, it doesn't even matter if you're first pick, you still go to the minors.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you do not start day one MLB.
Yeah, and that's what I'm getting into is you could have a number 1 draft pick who, like, next generational, or you have the generational player in Mike Trout. He could have gotten drafted, he could have came to the MLB, and all of a sudden he could have just completely crapped the bed. Like, I mean, there could have been a possibility of that. Now,
no, it's funny you say that though, because that's happening with Leiter. Like, he tore it up
exactly,
and he's not doing well, and I think he's in Double-A right now.
Yeah,
for the Rangers, like, he's just struggling to locate.
It is kind of funny with that. You get so many guys that can potentially, even with high schoolers, you can get them going number 1 in the draft. You can get them going top 5. You can even get them going. We'll throw them all the way to round 26. Or wherever the MLB round goes, because they have so damn many of them. But you get all of those round draft picks. You could have a guy who could be a next generational talent, but because he was so under the radar and went, let's put, for example, he went D2, but he still threw 94, was able to get a little bit of movement. He had the best ERA on the season for his conference. Team went to regionals, and then they lost in the College World Series. We'll get him that far. We'll give the big hypothetical. He could immediately come out and just start kind of working his way through. He gets into a better system, starts going, and then all of a sudden he becomes the next either Max Scherzer, Jacob deGrom, and just starts shoving and becomes a next generational talent pitcher. You never know where that talent level is going to be, and I think that's the best thing about baseball. Is just
very rarely though will you see pitchers do that. Like, I think the person I remember going the quickest from draft to minors to majors was Bryce. I think. Like, he was drafted as an 18 and he debuted as a 19-year-old.
Yeah.
Him or Juan Soto. I think they both did the kind of the same thing, except for Soto obviously didn't get drafted out of high school, but
And that also, you have to factor in like the team too, like what they're wanting. Like take Pittsburgh, for example. They just had their guy who spent like, what was it, 15 plus years in the minors, something like that.
the 33-year-old.
Yeah. He spent that long in the minors and he got drafted. Now
So
he's
I
getting
think
his
that's different
opportunity.
though, because that's a position player.
Fair.
Like you could,
Yeah, because you also had one guy who was
second.
he pitched in the College World Series and then he pitched in the World Series in that same year.
That was a reliever.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Weird. It's weird. Your different positions. You'll go at different rates.
Yeah.
Like catchers, I feel like they take the longest to go unless your team just doesn't have one.
Mhm.
Pitchers, I feel like, are usually the quickest. It's like pitchers are quickest, middle infield, corners, outfield, and then catcher.
Well,
is what I feel like.
The Cubs, for example, they had to call up a catcher this last weekend in Amaya, and he only caught.
The Cardinals just did that too, I think.
Yeah, because Amaya only had been catching Double-A ball, and they had to pull him immediately up because his batting average was better. Jan Gomes ended up being put on concussion protocol. Tucker Barnhart was on a little bit of a disability, but he was still hitting. He just wasn't catching. So they called up Amaya, and I mean, it worked out great for them this weekend. He was still hitting, but still.
How does that work though? Like, how can you go from double, skip triple, and just go straight to the bigs?
Whatever they need, honestly.
I was gonna say.
I mean, I feel like it would make more sense to bring up your AAA catcher, unless the dude just can't swing the bat at all.
Well, it's like I feel like it's also like if you have a guy either doing a rehab stint or they're at like the AAA level, but you have a guy that's even younger that he could play at a higher capacity, like you just said, like he's just been drafted or he's brand new to it, but he's only been starting out there and yet he's already been efficient.
Yeah.
And if you see a more of a future with that Double-A, then you can bring him up. I mean, it's kind of a slap in the face to the AAA catcher, but
yeah,
I wonder if this brings up the next point. Then I wonder if it makes sense for these D1s to start having a quote unquote JV team. I don't know if they do.
I know they have like club teams.
That's different.
I know.
That's just because schools like Kansas, for example, is Kansas actually because I've been trying to figure this out. Is Kansas actually an affiliated D1 baseball team now, or are they still?
Yeah, they're in the Big 12.
Well, because they just haven't had a baseball team for a while, and for the longest time,
just
it was just
good.
A club team.
Yeah, they suck. Like
they're just not good.
Creighton has both.
Mm-hmm.
And like they have a World Series for these club teams. But if you think about it, I feel like it would make more sense. And I wonder if that's why you're seeing these ranked teams lose these midweek games against like the unranked teams. Because like maybe they're just like, oh, we'll give our big guys, a day off. And let's start some of these guys who can play, but they're not the greatest.
Yeah.
But so then I want because
I mean, obviously you're not gonna have like your weekend starter for like your pitching.
Yeah, there's a reason that they start your important games, and it's like it's not as tiresome as a major league schedule, but it's still you play what probably 70, 80 games at the college level.
56 game season.
Huh?
56.
It's a 56 game regular season usually, right?
Yeah, and then you got
the postseason.
Then you got
regional, super regionals,
CWS. Like you'll probably get to 70 at some point.
Close to.
And like if you, especially as a college athlete, like that's a lot. And then you're
not only that, but it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, midweek. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, midweek.
With school, you gotta train. You still have to train. You still have to eat, lift. Like that's a lot.
It is.
So I feel like
it's a full-time job.
Coach,
it's a full-time job.
As a head coach, you have to rest them some days.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like you can't break them to the point. Like you can't let Dylan Cruz sit 4 out of the 5, or 3 out of the 4 midweek games, because then you run the risk of him, losing his whatever.
Yeah, but I think there's a lot to take into consideration depending on who you are in a midweek and like who you're playing, because like there are certain teams right now that aren't on this top 25 list that I would say you can't take for granted. One of those teams being Georgia Southern, who has been hopping in and out of the top 25. I'll put Texas State on there because still they've been struggling a little bit this year. They kept up some of the momentum last year from their home run hitting in the supers to start off the year. But I think Texas State could be a team that potentially is you don't want to mess around with. Old Dominion, I would say, would be on that list as well. You get other teams like that have shown that they can play with the big dogs, hop into the top 25. They'll get knocked out maybe after they get a little kind of the top 25 jitters or whatever. But I mean, there's still teams that you can do pushovers. Like I would say probably a team that I am looking at right now on this West Virginia schedule, Hofstra, to me would be a team that you could probably take a little bit of a break on. Teams
He
like
says that they're going to lose.
Yeah. Well, no, West Virginia already played Hofstra this year, and they went 1-1 on the season, or 1-1 on the week. But I mean, still, there are certain teams where you can take a break, and there are teams where you definitely cannot. Like it's
Right,
just
but you
not
say
feasible.
that, and like Tennessee did it against who is it, Tennessee Tech to beat them like 2 out of 3 years or whatever.
Yeah, fair enough.
But then like you've got the ones where it's like Wake Forest and Texas A&M, where you're not going to throw your number one guy because it's not conference.
Yeah.
But like you still have like obviously you want to win every game, but you still have to be able to develop your younger guys and get them reps. Like you're not gonna have a Dylan Cruz in a year.
Yeah.
Or like Paul Skinnis for LSU's gone at the end of the year. Like you need to be able to still give your guy like you don't want to give your ace for LSU, have him be his first game experience be next year, opening day.
Yeah. So it is a lot to think about, and thank God at the moment we aren't coaching at the college level because that's way too many things to be thinking about because there's still a lot of baseball left to be played because looking at like some team schedule, there's 2 more weeks of conference in the regular season, and then we're on to the conference title here. This season has really flown by.
And then we get a mindfuck Jay again.
No.
Yeah.
No, we can't do it. My brain,
ACC.
I can't handle it.
I hope all the conferences are like that.
Dude,
They switch to pools and they decide to, hey, guess what? They're going to switch the regional play to that somehow.
They're going to be like,
No.
we saw the No Place Like Omaha pod, and we just want to fuck you guys.
Guess what? Screw you.
We haven't seen the ACC schedule beforehand for their conference tournament. We just saw it on this podcast.
I would figure the Pac-12 would do some stupid stuff like that. Like,
No,
honestly,
we're not even going to cover the Pac-12 tournament.
They would do that.
No.
Anyways, but it's exciting though because then
if we cover the Pac-12 tournament, I'm turning my video off and I'm walking away from the screen. And you can text me when you're done.
But I am excited though to when we get those regional bids and we get to see all that because that's always fun getting the big board.
The big board is always key.
But yeah. All right, I'm gonna address the Big Pimpin' Player of the Week and then we can talk about the upcoming week. So you'll probably know where I'm going with this. But
I don't.
It's impressive. So 4 home runs in a season. It's pretty impressive. I mean, you smack a few out here. You smack a few out here. Let me finish what I gotta say. Let me finish what I gotta say.
Come up with better analogies.
I'm doing that. 4 home runs on a weekend. That's pretty impressive. Having 4 home runs in a game. That's Big Pimpin'. Our Big Pimpin' Player of the Week, Calvin Harris of Ole Miss Baseball. Smacking for Nick, get out of here. This is my thing. Piss off. You don't have the pimpin' sunglasses. Get out of here with that.
Joe Shiesty shades.
Calvin Harris. Smacking 4 ding-dongs.
Ding-dongs.
Nope. He was whistling baseballs right out of the stadium was what was happening. 4th one was over the batter's eye. I'm going to punch you in the face. I swear to God.
Dude, you suck at this.
Listen, I'm going to purple norpre you. Next time I see you, it's coming.
You won't.
Anyways, 4 home runs in the game, in one game on the weekend for Ole Miss Baseball. But yeah, took the last one over the batter's eye. So that is a Big Pimpin' Player of the Week, Calvin Harris, Ole Miss Baseball.
Ole Miss baseball.
Yeah, he did it in the Baby Blues too, which absolutely are the top 5 coolest jerseys in baseball. You can stop.
Suck.
Baby blue jerseys, baby blue pants, slap.
No.
All right. Now, looking ahead then to the weekend series that we have. Starting on Thursday, we got NC State, North Carolina, Auburn, and Ole Miss starting it out. Then, looking at Friday, Vanderbilt and Florida will open up their series. That'll be a good 5 and 7 seed matchup. Then we got Gardner Webb and Campbell. Campbell should take the series there. Memphis and East Carolina. Georgia Tech and Duke. Duke still looking to stay hot and continue to move up in the rankings. Wake Forest and Florida State. Louisville and Virginia. Miami, Pittsburgh. And we've noticed that Pittsburgh team has been one to upset before. UConn and Butler. Minnesota, Maryland. Kentucky and Tennessee will be another one that we kind of talked about earlier. Texas Tech and West Virginia. Southern Miss and UL Monroe. Clemson, Virginia Tech, Dallas Baptist, and UTSA. Another good one to watch. Coastal Carolina, South Alabama. South Carolina and Arkansas will also be another good one to watch. We just talked about that South Carolina team being, again, for the most part, their offense has been doing phenomenal, and Arkansas still looking to build on that. Mississippi State and LSU. LSU looking to bounce back and take a series there. Arizona, Stanford, Oregon State, UCLA, Washington, and Oregon.
A lot of good games this weekend.
Yeah, Mikey will be staying up at 11 o'clock at night to watch those last few games.
I'll be playing COD.
Wrong.
While
You'll be like,
watching
I need to watch
Pac-12
Oregon play.
baseball.
I'll make sure my TV's off.
Mikey
Oregon
needs
baseball.
some Pac-12 baseball and COD at 11.
Wants the neon green unis. That's what he wants.
I would much rather watch Judge Judy.
Bunch of highlighters running around.
Judge Judy.
Bunch of highlighters running around.
Conference in all of college sport.
That's tough.
Shouldn't even be a conference, dude.
You know, for next week, what we should do is I'm going to go back and I'm going to look through and try to find it because I was trying to find it on my phone. All the teams that we picked to be in Omaha and just go through a run for the records.
No, all the Pac-12 teams suck.
Okay. And
I mean, Stanford's in the top 10, so
bad. All are bad.
I don't understand.
Everyone.
Every year we talked about that. Well, we talked about this last year. Stanford's going to be the team that they're going to host, and they're going to somehow make it to Omaha.
So shut up.
Yep.
This is why they're up there. Because daddy's and mommy's money buys it.
Oh my
Lord.
No.
Yes.
Then Harvard would be up in there. Are you kidding me?
No.
Get an Ivy League school in there.
No, Harvard wouldn't be in there because of the Ivy Leagues wouldn't be in there because of money. They would be in there for their law and just how
they feel discriminated against because they're kept out of the top 25.
730A BCY. I have to host a regional.
Got him.
And Stanford would be like, well, no, I am the worst conference in the entire world. I have to host a regional.
Oh my gosh.
And then you chump buckets are over here like, God, give me the Pac-12 winner.
I don't want the Pac-12 to win.
He's just mad that Old Dominion's still not ranked.
Yeah. Facts.
The Old Dominion Monarchs.
Lions.
Anyways, do you guys have anything else to add, subtract, multiply?
Josh, I got a question for you. So I'm getting ready to go golfing with my girlfriend's family in a couple of weeks.
Good luck.
And I need some good golfing attire. Is there any place that we could maybe get some?
Well, I can definitely hook you up.
Shut up. Unfortunately, this is not like 2K where you can buy a tire and improve your golf game. It'll just make you look more swaggy. Drip over skill.
Okay.
Drip over skill.
Drip over skill. So where can people go if they need some new golf gear?
Yeah, so it's www.fuckyou.com.
Oh, no. Oh, okay.
I picked up what you were putting down. You were trying to sell it, and I loved it. And then Mikey was like, No, I'm not going to comply with anything. So, but you could go to Shank It Golf. You could check out some of their apparel. Again, I believe it's 15% off using the code.
Do they have bucket hats? I don't remember.
I believe so.
seeing one.
I would think so.
Well,
You can take a second peek at that. I've
and
really
titties.
looked at either the hats or the gloves. I really like the gloves because they have the thing on the middle finger. It'll just say Shank It. But you can check it out there again using the code Cronyo Media for I believe 15% off of your order. Also, if you're looking for something to get a nice little juicy pump in, a little pre-workout drink for you, checking out Dubby.
Or if you need a quick bend around on hole when you're going to hole 10, just a line of pre-workout.
That is
baby.
true.
Yeah, there you go.
You need it right around just pour it down the cart and just get gone. Yep. I believe
Also,
that's
Angel dust
way to
over
ingest
bunkers.
it.
Also, Mikey, they do have a Shank It Golf bucket hat.
Right on. With the string?
With the string.
With the string. Nice.
Bro,
But
they
yeah, you
got
can check
hats.
out.
They got a hat that says titties on it instead of titties.
Yes, I'm getting that hat.
We both have to.
That's
Josh, we have
dude.
to.
I love boobies, man.
We have to.
Oh my gosh.
We're
Yes,
supposed to
I'm
be
getting that. Put a
a
link to
somewhat
that.
family-friendly podcast.
Put a link to that specific item in the video
easily.
and for
Yeah.
the pod.
Oh,
I
100%.
will.
But there's that, and then also again on Dubby, it's 10% off using the same code Cronyo Media, all caps. Shout out Cronyo for hooking us up with that and hooking us up with being able to do what we do. Day in,
Callaway,
day out.
if you want to come in, ping, we'll even take you.
Why? What?
We're doing golfing.
Why are we
companies
doing
and
golf
baseball now.
companies?
Shanky
What the
doesn't
heck?
sell golf clubs.
Oh, they have a 3-putt
Otherwise,
king hat. That
they
might have to
wouldn't-
be me.
A 4-putt? Damn,
No,
imagine being that
3-putt.
good.
Yeah, right.
Facts.
I get it on the green maybe in 4 strokes on a par 3.
Bro, Josh,
Um,
you're gonna love this. They have the titties hat in hot pink.
Dude, I'm getting a titties hat, man. I'm getting one. That's awesome. That's so good. Yeah, because
That's funny.
I've browsed their stuff. I don't even know how I missed that hat, honestly.
They have one that says
I looked
they
at
have
some of
one
their
that says
polos too.
Bogey golfer. I'm
Mhm.
so getting the bogey golfer.
Yeah, that or
You're
the
a bogey
3-putt
golfer?
king. Yeah.
Nice. I'm a triple
Um,
bogey.
Triple
I'm
bogey. I'm more of the
probably
guy where
worse.
it just says the plus and then it just adds whatever. It's not a bogey anymore. It's like on Wii. The Wii when it'd be like plus 11, and you're like, all right,
Yep.
that was a good call. But yeah, again, that's all we got for this week. Anything else to add, gentlemen?
I think I'm good.
Pac-12 sucks, so does Nick.
Got
All
him.
right, wonderful.
All right. Well, again, you can catch us on the No Place Like Homaha YouTube channel. You can also catch us on all podcasting platforms, No Place Like Homaha. You can catch us on social media on TikTok and Twitter at Homaha Pod.
Except not the hub.
I know. We're still struggling there, but doing the best we can with what we got. All right.
Nick's doing nothing.
Again, it's been fun. It's been real. It has not been real fun.
I like it.
All right. Catch you guys next week.